Hello and welcome to a special edition of Mojo Talks. My name is Eric, and today we're talking World Cup. We're basically, the finals are upon us, so we've assembled an esteemed panel. Today joining me, I have Danny Payne, radio DJ, all-around footy fan, and guy with a couple of opinions.
One or two, especially on the England game, yeah. Yeah,
we can get into that. We also have Ashkan Karbasfrooshan, founder and CEO of WatchMojo, and also a huge footy fan as well.
Of course.
Now, you also have your fair share of opinions. You watched the game the other day. How do you feel about, before we get to the Brits' opinion on the game, how did you feel about Croatia, England?
I don't want to say I told you so, but I do think all this talk about, oh, it's coming home, I think eventually that does get into the minds of the players. And I think Croatia, so long as they kept in it, you knew that they would just creep up. And I think that's ultimately what happened. They just had that killer instinct at the end. Great game. And honestly, what a fantastic tournament thus far. That's the key takeaway for me.
Danny?
100%. I like that you're touching on the it's coming home thing. The trophy hasn't come home, but football went home. You see the country, this is a country divided by Brexit at the moment. These politicians are quitting left, right and centre. It's a bit of a turmoil. And so this whole World Cup, the whole World Cup run is the only thing that could have brought English people together was football. And it's been brilliant. Football did come home in that respect. In terms of the game, England missed 2 or 3 great chances. Kane missed a great chance to make it 2-0, a great chance. He was flagged offside, but VAR would have given it in the video replay. And we just didn't put those chances away first half. Second half, like you say, the Croatian team were just that bit more experienced, a bit more battle-hardened. And like you say, just overtook. And I think they deserved to win over the 120 minutes.
I think something happened at around the 60th minute where just things turned very quickly. And it's as if Croatia, we talked a lot about them going to extra time in all of their previous games, but something just clicked where they just had that killer instinct. I think football, more than any other sport, goes beyond just what's happening on the pitch. You know, you can't not mention the fact that, yeah, England has had all this backdrop with not just the Brexit, but there was a couple of even these terrorist, like events. Sure. I go back to France. France had the horrible incidents at the Bataclan there, going into the Euro. And that was one reason why I was like, I would like to see France win 2016. But I think all those things, we talk about these players. Yes, they are professional athletes, so much pressure. They've been basically training all their lives for this. But they're human beings, and they're young, relatively speaking. So I think that's what I meant more with the coming home. I think once you start to think something is like you have the sense of entitlement, I'm not saying they did, but once you think something is a fait accompli, that's when I feel you kind of
the wheels
lose
can
it.
come off.
Yeah. And I think, look, ultimately, Croatia, you're talking about a generation that basically are the children of a civil war almost. So again, I think that gives you a battle wariness where you saw it. The tying goal, for example, showed a killer instinct where you're getting this kick coming across. You put out your foot, nearly decapitating, and it was like, it was an intense game. And it was just, so again, I just think Croatia, that is the way. And I said this on the previous show, I think Croatia has been constant. What I meant by that was, yes, they went into penalty kicks and they could have just within a fraction of a hair been knocked out many, many times. But that's their MO. If they stay in it, they will have a chance to win. And I think that's what they did. But yeah, fantastic display by England. Great to watch, highly likable players, great storyline, so much class. And look, if you think of where England is coming from, like I joke, by the way, I get obviously the home connotation, but I joke, I go, wait, where is home for football? Is it Sao Paulo? Is it Berlin? Is it Rome? Is it places where they've won 4 or 5 times? But no, I think you see the trajectory that England is on. And I think for 2022, they have, a fantastic, shot of going all the way.
And 4 years to work on it. Danny, you were actually telling us that you were considering going home, speaking of home, had England gone on.
If England went to the final, I would have watched it in England for sure.
Yeah.
The scenes back there are incredible.
Well, I'm sorry that you didn't get to do that, but here at WatchMojo, what we like to do
We're sending you to England anyway.
Come on in, bring him a ticket. Exactly. So what we like to do is a versus. We often like to pit one thing against another and really look at at various criteria to figure out which one edges out the other, and what better opportunity to do that for than the World Cup finals. So we're going to look at Croatia, we're going to look at France.
I thought we were going to do that for the third place playoff, England v Belgium. Who gets the third place?
Right, well, that's a big game
I have
too,
a question
right?
for you. How intense are players in that consolidation match?
I think they're all hungover.
You're hungover.
I think they'll have been partying for 2 days.
Yeah,
And
it's the equivalent. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters. It's not even a real game, right?
But sometimes it throws up a really good game because no one gives a shit.
Right.
So there's no pressure, just free for all.
But I mean, if you think of it, England versus Belgium is going to be a pretty darn good game.
Well, we had one earlier in the tournament,
That's true.
and it wasn't
Good
very
point.
good. In fact, England v Belgium, this tournament, have been the game no one wanted to win and the game nobody wants to play. Both times.
It's very well put. Very well put. I didn't think the first game was that bad of a match at all. I actually thought it was somewhat enjoyable, but you're right. I think it's possible that Belgium wanted to win that maybe a bit more than England. England was maybe jockeying for, okay, we're going to take the easier route.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's get into the verses. Let's look at each team's path to the finals, starting with, let's go with Croatia.
I think Croatia had a much tougher, if you think of all the extra, time, penalty kicks and shootouts that they had to go through. But I think they were probably more impressive, relatively speaking, because they beat Nigeria, which is a relatively strong team. They beat Argentina 3-0.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
and I think that's when it kind of sent a message. Then I think their third match was against Iceland, where they won 1-0 or 2-1. But anyway, my point is, I think they kind of set a message, set a tone that they were to be taken seriously. And I think the fact that they went through all these penalty kicks, I think some people might say, well, the fatigue is going to play a factor. But I think that actually made them a bit more resilient. Now, France, on the other hand, I think France is just so stacked that the expectation is that they're going to coast through. But we could talk about what I think about the final. But I think Croatia had probably a more defining path because the expectations were much lower. Whereas France, you kind of expected them going into it. They were a favorite. I know people said Germany and Brazil, but I thought France was just far more stacked than any other team.
But would you say that Croatia...
And sorry, to that point, France's bench, if you sum up their transfer fees, cost more than most teams' starters.
Right.
So that's what I mean by they're so stacked. I think France it's not that much of a surprise they're here. That's why I think Croatia's path to getting here is the one that's probably they get the nod.
And at every point on Croatia's path, do you feel that they surpassed expectations?
No, I'd say they equaled expectations, and then the England game was a bit more 50-50. I mean, beating Russia, you had Croatia to beat Russia, for example.
Exactly. And I mean, the mere fact that even Russia got the go-ahead goal, it was a beautiful shot, but that was a surprise. Now, you could argue by then Russia was kind of in rarefied air. And I always go, once a tournament starts, nobody cares about what happened before. The fact that they were ranked 70th, the lowest ranked team going into it, to me, it's once you hear that whistle.
They were the lowest ranked?
Yeah, they got in because basically they were the home team. But I did
Oh,
feel,
Russia.
Russia, yeah, not Croatia.
I said Croatia. I apologize. No, Russia. But I feel like, you kind of expected them to do better, but it's just France were expected to be here. Croatia wasn't. So in that sense.
Yeah. And one thing on Croatia as well, their coach, Zlatko Dalic, he joined right at the end of the qualifying campaign. One game before the end where I think they had to win to make it through. So he hasn't been in place that long. So I think in terms of exceeding expectation, I think maybe not the team because they're a good team. You knew they were going to do well, but if you look at the comparison with France, and Deschamps' been there so long, they've got their system, they know their formation, they know each other. I think with this new coach element, I think that could have thrown them like a la Spain, but they've really done well. And I credit to the coach for bringing them together like this.
And the other wild card is, again, France was a runner-up in the Euro just 2 years ago with, kind of being almost shocked or upset by Portugal. So I think, yeah, that's the main takeaway. One of these teams is kind of supposed to be there. The other one has kind of surprised us all, even though when you watch the games, they were always so resilient that you're kind of not surprised that they were the last man standing to get here.
So I guess what we're saying, in essence, is that France obviously is the favorite to win. But maybe. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. But what does France have to do at this point to win?
France are going to do what France do. They're going to nullify Croatia's skills, which of which there are many. My feeling would be they're going to get a lead. They're going to hold on to it. They're going to close them down. They're so solid, France. They're so organised. You can't fight. But look at Belgium. Belgium couldn't create really that golden opportunity. If they can't, Croatia are going to struggle. So France are going to get the lead, go solid, and I think it's going to be 2-0 France with a counter-attacking goal near the end where Croatia have thrown all their guys forward.
But
so you're going with the prediction already. Okay, so look, if you look at how, apart from that little 2-0 deficit to Japan, look at how much like Belgium was just devastating, so creative offensively. They just kind of, diffused so many, counter forces and whatnot. And then look at how France kind of, like you said, just kind of manhandled them. You didn't see Lukaku. I mean, yes, in the first half, I think Belgium had a lot of chances, but it was still France was kind of in the lead. So yes, I think France has to just do their own thing. And I think what Croatia wants to avoid is that kind of Argentina-France match where it gets kind of high scoring. I think even if France gets the first goal, which is likely to happen, I think so long as it's 1-0 going into the half and even late into the first half, kind of like what happened with England, I think Croatia will have this chance because they're kind of like that cat with 9 lives that they will find a way to make it happen. I think where Croatia will be dead in the water, so to speak, is if it gets high scoring. They got the firepower, but they won't have that much firepower to match France's deep bench of scorers and whatnot. But I think France is the favorite because they're so stacked. But the danger is France does need to come out and they can't get cute. They can't do what Germany and Spain did, which is just assume that because they're favored and they have a deeper bench and roster, that they could take their time. They got to come out and they got to make sure. Now, if Croatia somehow manages to get the first goal,
that's what we need.
I think that's
I was going to ask, what does Croatia need to do to win?
First goal. That's 100%. And you saw how Sterling in the first half, England-Croatia, was dragging Lovren and Vida, the centre-backs, everywhere. They were having nightmares against him. Imagine what Mbappe is going to do to that defence, because Mbappe is rapid, and he's one of the stars of the tournament. For Croatia to win, they need that first goal. That if they concede early, it's going to be trouble. They need to get Modric and Rakitic into the game. And
that's what you were
Perisic
mentioning last time, right?
They have to get them into the game. Now, the midfield battle is interesting because the midfield battle Croatia-England was, let's say, Modric, Rakitic against Jordan Henderson. That's a mismatch. Now, you've got Modric, Rakitic against Pogba and Kante.
Yeah.
That is going to be
But even
incredible.
there, because you could argue Modric is past his prime. He probably is the best midfielder, but you could argue that, France still edges them out in some ways because they're just so stacked. But that's probably Croatia's best, if you were to compare. I think that France, not to take anything away from England, but just more in terms of styles, I think France would have had an easier time against England, actually. Because I feel ultimately they would have ended up both scoring a lot of goals and it would have resembled a little bit that Argentina-France match, which in the end France prevailed in. I think Croatia is going to give them a very hard time. And I don't even think they need to get the first goal. Obviously, you get the first goal, that's what you want. But I think so long as it's close, I would be nervous if I'm France because that's what Croatia has shown. They stay in it and then they might surprise you. So I think France has to come out. They have to kind of play to their strength. I agree with what you say that they're good at kind of nullifying the other team. But they actually, I feel, have to avoid that. They don't want to get into trenches against Croatia. They got to come out and let Mbappe run and they got to let Pogba do his thing and Giroud. They just got to come out and play to their strengths. And their strengths is they just have so much firepower.
Well, it seems like we're saying that France has the edge in pretty much all the different positions, all the different categories. Would you say that that's the truth? Or are there certain places where...
Yeah, in the tangibles. But the intangibles, France are flaky. France are capable of combusting. It's always the way. They had, in the World Cup not so long ago, they were the defending world champions, and they all fell out, and there was divisions between the entire camp. And
what about team dynamics?
Look at the team. You're talking about Croatia. Never say die. They're all in it together. You're talking about in the trenches. That is...
I think France could suffer from what England did, which is think they've already won.
I don't think England thought they already won. The players, the coach. I think the media and the fans were getting excited, but the players and the coach were definitely grounded. I think England's squad this World Cup in terms of international appearances, they had the least of every team.
Sure.
And they didn't quite have the experience.
But do you think England respected Croatia as much as they should have? Or do you think they maybe
the
took them a bit
players
lightly?
and the management, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Some areas of the English media are idiots and they did it, sure. But I'm sure the players, I don't think the players...
I think there was just a sense of, wow, England versus France. It was like a foregone conclusion.
Right.
In some, but you're right. It could have been just the media and not the actual players. I think absolutely right. France very easily could have already been drinking the Kool-Aid and think very flashy. They could now start to, the same criticism I gave Spain and Germany, way too many passes, shoot the damn ball. I think France might get very cutesy, where they're going to start making all these passes and like doing things really cute and elegant, but failing to have that killer instinct.
And we saw a little bit of that against Belgium with the flicks and the tricks, a few that they pulled out.
Way too many. And I think, you could argue that like had England, and I mean the would have, could have, I think there was a lot of opportunities to get more goals in the England-Croatia game. But I think that's the key, that, I'm just telling you that France does have the opportunity to just, like you said, self-combust and just fall apart, whereas I think Croatia is just a far more united, cohesive, battle-worn, tested team in that sense.
Do you think that this is going to be a classic final game in terms of, historically speaking, is it going to ignite and explode, or is it going to be more of a forgettable?
Logic says no, but this World Cup has thrown up so many surprises and crazy games you just do not know. I mean, it's France, they're not the most attacking. Croatia are going to know they're the underdogs, so they're not going to want to give away an early goal, so they'll probably play a bit more solid. So very possibly, I'd say, no, it's going to be a bit of a grind. But like I say, there's been a few surprises, so I'm not going to rule anything out.
You're coming from 4 years ago where despite, after Germany crushed Brazil in the semis, they ended up beating Argentina in extra time. So I think, and that was a kind of lackluster overall tournament. There was a lot of low scoring, boring defensive games, and you kind of had to find what was good about and entertaining about this game. Generally, there's kind of this regression to the mean, where if the tournament's been so awesome, you think that in the end, the final may not be good. But I think given actually the contrast between the teams, where you do have this very like playmaking, high-powered. I actually think France is a lot more high-powered than you seem to give them credit for. I just think they have a lot of guys who could put the ball in the net. I think they just have,
incredible.
No, that's it. So I just feel like they might just blow up and they might be up 3-0 as well. But I just think there's something about the Croatian team that never say die kind of thing, that this will be a pretty good final. And as much as I do think France should win, I give Croatia a far higher likelihood to upset. We're talking like 49% possibility, just because so long as it's close, I think the odds are overwhelmingly in Croatia's favor.
Wow.
Oh yeah, because it was the same thing.
Here first.
No, but I think in all likelihood,
only here,
and only no, because again, it's just look at every match. Croatia has kept it pretty even, despite whether it's Russia or Tanzania. Once you're on the pitch, it doesn't matter who you are. Not that many people thought that Portugal, especially with Ronaldo being injured in the Euro, was going to be able to pull it off on French soil, and they did, right? So I think France should win, but I think people are discounting Croatia's tenacity. So I think so long as it's a close game, even if it's 1-0 by half, I think Croatia may upset it. But look, logic dictates that France wins it. You said 2-0. It could even be 3-1. I mean, it could get out of hand. But
I just see that defense. That defense is so solid. And when Belgium did get through France's defense, Hugo Lloris played very well, made some great saves. I mean, it's just so solid. And look at Pogba and Encante in front of the defense. It's ridiculous.
But look at how well England played defense, and just how, everybody goalie defense was kind of almost like a wall, and then Croatia still managed to get through somehow. That I think
I rate France's defense better than England.
No, for sure it is. But I'm just saying, when it's the World Cup final, anything can happen. Right? That's my only wild card. That I think, assuming is that it's a fait accompli, that Croatia is lucky to be here. There's something about this team.
It would feel
first time in the final
if they did, right?
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure if you ask French fans, they would. So nothing magique about that.
I'd certainly feel more magical about it.
Where are you going to be watching it?
I'm probably not. No, I'm gonna. I don't know, actually.
At the pub or
when
in
is
the
it?
privacy of your own home?
I'm probably going to be at Shazam Fest this weekend, actually, in the Canton d'Est. So I'll probably be listening to it on a certain sports radio station.
And yourself?
I like to watch the game, so I'll probably be in my basement with very minimal distractions.
And air conditioning.
And air conditioning for sure, and just enjoying the game. It's the greatest spectacle of anything, you know, whether you're talking music, whether you're talking sports, whatever categories you look at. To me, the World Cup final, more so than the Olympic 100-meter dash, more so than the Super Bowl, more so. To me, the World, even as much as I like the Euro, because I feel the Euro is actually, in some ways, this might sound blasphemous, I find the Euro is a tougher competition because there's less fluff and fat.
100%.
You know, you get basically like the cream of the crop in Europe, and especially the World Cup, if it's not in Southern America, the Southern American teams generally don't fare that well, I think, on European soil historically.
All 4 semi-finalists were European.
That's it. But I feel the World Cup, in terms of just spectacle and that, you know, awesomeness to it, is, I look forward to it considerably.
One thing is for sure is that one country is going to be partying really hard and another country is going to be very disappointed, and I guess we'll find out who that's going to be.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if Croatia loses, they will still party quite hard in Croatia.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think if France loses, you're maybe right. It won't be that much of a party. A little bit of pastis and then taking a nap. But I think if Croatia wins or loses, they're going to be partying.
all the expectations on France, right?
There we go.
And again, after losing the Euro in that fashion, only a victory makes sense. But for Croatia, first time getting through to the finals, they deserve, you know, a hell of a standing ovation for that. But they'll be partying either way.
Well, that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for participating, Ash, Danny, and thank you guys all. Let us know what you think in the comments. This is going to be an incredible game either way. And, well, thank you. We'll see you guys on the other side of the finals.